Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live episode of Taking Stock. My name is Kalila Reynolds, and it's my pleasure to join you once again on this Tuesday evening with
Everybody,
another
and welcome
exciting
to another
episode.
live
I'm getting
episode
some
of Taking
feedback, so let
Stock.
me
My name
turn
is
my
Kalila Reynolds, and it's my
turn
pleasure
my
to
audio
join you once
down,
again
and we're
on
gonna
this
rectify that after the first
everybody, and
break.
welcome
Yeah,
to
we
another
are
live episode
absolutely
of
talking
Taking
over
Stock.
these
My name is
parts.
Kalila
I hope
Reynolds,
you
and it's my
are
pleasure to
locked
join
in
you
and
once
loaded
again
and ready for
on
this
this
exciting conversation.
first
And
break.
before we get started, give me some likes, right? Hit the like button. I know the ones who are already watching us, you are our regulars. Don't forget to smash the like button so that more people can see it, can know that we're on right now. Also, if you haven't done so just yet, subscribe to the newsletter at KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter. And of course, the masterclass is still available. You can go to KalilaReynolds.com/masterclass to get the information that you need to start investing if you have not started just yet. So, what's coming up in this evening's show? Well, here's a look, followed by what's hot in business. Digicel and Flow, watch out! Jamaica's newest telecoms provider, Rock Mobile, is bringing the competition. We've got an exclusive interview with co-founder and chairman Bruce Bowen. He'll tell us about their 4G LTE deal with Nokia, and of course, what we all want to know about, their rates. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. The principals of SSL Venture Capital have stalled plans to offload the company, which remains bankrupt. And in the US, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose more than 500 points, or 1.7%, to wrap up their best week yet in 2022. We'll discuss. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has warned that the government could be forced to pass laws to limit banking fees. His statement follows news last week that both of Jamaica's largest commercial banks, NCB and Scotia, have introduced new and increased fees. The announcements drew major backlash, with Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark calling the move tone-deaf. Dr. Clark said the banks were showing callous disregard for the economic and social structure of Jamaica in how they set their fees. Meanwhile, the Justice Minister said that while laws to limit bank earnings clashed with the government's outlook on a free market society, it will intervene if needed. Among the NCB and Scotia's new fees is a charge to withdraw money using a bank-owned ATM. You'll also be charged to view your account balance, use international ATMs, or have your bank statement printed or emailed to you. Jamaica fell one place to rank number 70 in the latest corruption perception rankings by global watchdog Transparency International. According to the agency's ranking, Jamaica's corruption perception index remained at 44. 0 on the CPI is considered highly corrupt, while 100 is very clean. The current listing means that Jamaica is perceived to be the fifth most corrupt country in the Caribbean, behind Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Guyana, and Trinidad and Tobago. Based on the data, Barbados was rated as the least corrupt country in the region, with a CPI score of 65 out of 100 and a ranking of 29th out of 180 countries. According to Transparency International, the Corruption Perceptions Index is the most widely used global corruption ranking in the world. It measures how corrupt each country's public sector is perceived to be, according to experts and business people. The data source is used to compile the CPI cover issues such as bribery, diversion of public funds, officials using their public office for private gain without facing consequences, and the ability of governments to contain corruption in the public sector. Sagicor Bank Jamaica has launched a new loan to help medium-sized manufacturers and agro-processors retool and expand. Eligible businesses will be able to borrow up to $50 million with interest rates as low as 6.5% per year. Borrowers will have up to 12 years to repay each loan. Sagicor said the new loan will be available as of February 1. It was funded with an initial pool of $1 billion. Bank CEO Shorville Johnson Cunningham said that in addition to financing the businesses, Sagicor will also provide technical and analytical support through its relationship managers and Small and Medium Enterprise Business Resource Center. Jamaica has once again been added to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Level 4 highest risk travel category for COVID-19. Jamaica was one of 15 countries added to the Level 4 or very high risk category because of the continuing grip the Omicron variant has on the world right now. The CDC places a destination at Level 4 when more than 500 cases per 100,000 residents are registered in the past 28 days. Travelers are urged to avoid travel to Level 4 countries. Last November, Jamaica was bumped from Level 4 to Level 3, which is classified as having a high level of COVID-19. Travelers are to make sure they are fully vaccinated before travel. The country's return to the list brings to 5 the number of Caribbean countries that were recently added. The others are the Dominican Republic, Guadeloupe, St. Bartholomew, and St. Martin. Caribbean destinations represent 1/3 of the new entries on last week's revised travel risk advisory. The Caribbean region had the best tourism performance in 2021, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. The organization reported that the Caribbean's tourism performance was 63% above 2020, though 37% below 2019. Some destinations came close to or exceeded pre-pandemic levels. The Caribbean was followed by Southern Mediterranean Europe up 57% and Central America up 54%. However, both destinations are still down on 2019 levels. The agency stressed that the industry's recovery is still slow and uneven due to varying degrees of mobility restrictions, vaccination rates, and traveler confidence. Despite posting record fourth quarter and full-year earnings, electric car maker Tesla said it won't be rolling out any new cars in 2022. The company said a global shortage of computer chips has slowed the entire auto industry. Tesla had predicted it would be able to build 50% more vehicles than it made last year, but CEO Elon Musk said the chip shortage put a dent in their plans. The US-based company made $5.5 billion last year, compared to the previous record year of $3.47 billion in net income posted in 2020. Musk said that the annual profit pushed the company's accumulated earnings since its 2003 inception into profitable territory.
What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Our key word for 2022 is consistency. I've told you before that you can start investing with as little as 1,000 Jamaican dollars, but the key to growing that into actual wealth is consistency. So here's what we're gonna do. Step 1, open your investment account. Step 2, set up a standing order or a salary deduction with your employer to fund that investment account every month, so that at the end of each month, you have money to buy stocks. Step 3, you're gonna watch my show, Taking Stock with Kalila Reynolds, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on YouTube for news and analysis on the stock market. And if you're completely clueless as to how to get started, well, you take my Investing for Beginners Masterclass at KalilaReynolds.com/masterclass. 2022 is gonna be your year. Let's get this money. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and Appleton Estate, Jamaican excellence. All right, technology issues. My mic was muted, so let's do that all again. Let me shout out everybody who's joining us online live so far. Colin Wilson says, let's go. Let's go, Colin. Rochelle says, hey. Hey, Rochelle. Keisha Bailey says, good evening. Clover says, good night, everyone. Where are you guys joining us from this evening? Jason says, hey, 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 let's get that money. Dwight Walker says, good evening. O'Shane says, Spur Tree, hot in business. Yes, you're going to see in the market recap how Spur Tree Spices did last week. They definitely made one of our top lists for the recap last week. Roger says, Philadelphia in the house, repping. Yes, big up yourself, Roger, in Philadelphia. And Ingrid, let me not call you old Ingrid. Young faithful, ever faithful Ingrid Jarrett joining us from Orlando. To Jackie in Kingston 7 and everybody else who's joining us from around Jamaica and around the world. Welcome back to another live episode of Taking Stock. So tonight we're talking telecommunications, among other things. In this first segment, that is our focus. So Digicel and Flow have been the main two providers for a long time. Y'all might remember Clara back in the day. And then we had a Carousel for a while, which got into some legal issues. And now there is Rock Mobile, Rock Connect, that has been granted a telecoms license for Jamaica, and they're expected to launch this year, 2022. So how will this make a difference? If it will make a difference, I'm sure you have lots of questions. And I'm pleased now to be joined by the founder and chairman of Rock Connect, Bruce Bowen. Hi, Bruce. Welcome to Taking Stock.
Hi, good evening, Talila. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, good.
And so people may remember your face from Scotiabank a while ago. You were
Exactly. No
right.
banking questions tonight.
No, that's not what we're talking about right about now. Because
Right.
I heard the name from I heard the story about Rock, and I saw Bruce Bowen. I'm like, where does this name sound familiar from? And for
Yeah,
some reason, I was thinking Bowen and Bowen. I'm from Belize. There's a big
yeah,
bottling
big
company,
family.
a Coca-Cola company
Yeah,
manufacturer, the Bowen and Bowen. For
yeah,
some reason, I was thinking that, but then I remember, oh yeah, Scotiabank. That was up until
right.
about 2016 or so, right?
Yeah, I left as CEO in Jamaica in about 2012 or 2013, and then was running the Caribbean region for 4 years or so, and then left, have moved back to Jamaica, become a Jamaican, and my wife Suzanne and I are trying to make a difference in Jamaica.
So, what brings you into telecoms from banking to telecommunications?
Yeah, well, we saw an opportunity. When you look at the telecom space, and I often get people saying, "Well, why would you come into to a market with two big incumbents?" But when you look at the telecommunication space, I mean, there's not an issue necessarily with phone calls and a lot of things. But when you just look at data, people's ability to get online, the quality of, buzzword broadband of data, it was pretty clear that demand is outstripping supply when it comes to wireless data. And on the other hand, you've also got only a little over 60% of Jamaicans are online, have access. So we see both an opportunity to provide a better quality and reliable product than is out there now. And then just through the way we're entering the market, there's still 40% of the market that isn't online. And if we project into the future, I don't know if it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, ultimately in Jamaica, like everywhere around the world, 85, 90% of the population will be online. It's important for economic growth, for education, many things. So we see it's coming into an expanding marketplace with a product that we can come to market with that's a better quality than what's in the market today.
So, are you going to be providing both cell service and broadband internet?
Our focus is broadband. I mean, as you and your viewers would recognize, you can use broadband to make phone calls. You can use broadband to access television. You can use broadband to do all kinds of things. And certainly, as you read up on the industry and look forward again 5 years or so, the expectation is that everything's going to move to broadband, and that'll really be the underlying. Once you got broadband, you can do anything else that other cellular, the other mobile providers can. But our licenses allow us to do anything. But our focus is broadband because we think that is focused on where the future is.
You said the license allows you to provide mobile if you wanted to eventually get into that.
Yeah, well, we have a mobile license. We can provide voice. We can provide anything that that Digicel and Flow are providing today, our licenses allow us to. But where we, as a new entrant, and we have two very large, very strong and smart competitors, and we to focus on areas that they are strong in and are providing good service in today. The better thing is for us to focus where the quality isn't there today, which is in the data side, both quality and just the coverage across the country.
The access, right?
Exactly,
Right. There's so many places.
exactly.
I know a young woman who she lives in St. Thomas, deep rural St. Thomas, and she
Right.
had an opportunity to get a job with a call center, and it's a work from home job, and they provide the equipment, you work from home, but there's no broadband service in her community, and that
Uh,
just sucks because that's
perfect,
a job
perfect
opportunity wasted.
example. Perfect example. And it isn't even just in deep rural areas. I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of even Metro Kingston and Montego Bay, while most of the time you may get good quality in those areas. I mean, I was on a call with some foreign equipment companies and watched my phone. I took a picture, a screenshot of my phone because my data moved not even 4G, not even 3G. It moved down to edge technology. Which means
Wow.
the 4G infrastructure had gotten full of the 3G, and so they were falling back into older and older, you know, equipment in order to fulfill the demand. So we feel that that is where the big gap between supply and demand is. And as a new entrant, yeah, we've got to focus on where there is unsatisfied demand. So data
No,
is our focus.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's so important. There's so many gaps outside the major urban areas that aren't being adequately served or served at all. So
Yeah.
we welcome this development. So what are your timelines looking like? I know I heard 2022 was supposed to be or is the year.
Yes, yeah. We're aiming
When?
for Q4, the latter part of
Wow.
2022, and the challenges today are, well, let me not first focus on government issues because they're trying, but they're slow. They can be slow. But I mean, we have to bring in a lot of equipment. Nokia is, as there's been press releases you would have heard, is our equipment provider, and the equipment is under manufacturing now, but they need to. There's chip shortages globally, and we think we have all the planning right that it'll all land on time. International transportation has got a lot of delays, but we're pretty confident that we can, not with national coverage have national coverage in place before the end of the year, but we can certainly launch with 45-50% population coverage. The plan is in Q4 of this year.
Right. So I know those tech issues are serious. That global chip shortage is a big one. But on the
Exactly.
regulatory side, is everything set there, or are you still awaiting certain approvals?
There are still things that we're waiting for. We have 85% of what we need to launch. There is, and how do I put it so that I'm not seen as criticizing the government too much? There are additional things that we require. I think the government for the last 2 years, because we've been at this process for 2 years, has been, and by government, that's a broad thing, ministries and Spectrum Agency and OUR, and everyone is very, very supportive of what we're trying to receive. But, the process moves sometimes at a speed that I just feel that this issue of getting broadband capacity into the marketplace is just too urgent. We were first told by some very prominent people in August 2020 that we would have everything we needed to launch, and we could have been in market in April of last year. So we're working through, and again, all the right things of dotting I's and crossing T's are there, but I mean, if the building was on fire, the building would have burnt down before we got to the scene with the water. I just feel, I mean, Jamaica is sitting with an internet penetration rate of about 61, 62%. Trinidad is about 74, 75%. Barbados and Bahamas are about 84, 85%. Dominican Republic is about 73%. Jamaica shouldn't be sitting that far back on the rest of the Caribbean
Absolutely
because
not.
it's impacting education. I mean, healthcare.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll take a
Everything.
side swipe at financial services, not swipe, I'll side support is, this whole bit with fees. A lot of it is trying to move encourage people to be moving to all these new online and technical channels. Well, people can't move online if there's no data access, so you need data access to be able to engage efficiently in financial services. There's healthcare services that can be more efficiently provided, to be able to do business internationally, to call family at a very low price around the world. All those things are there, and they could have been in place a long time ago. And just as, for example, in the pandemic, I think the government in Jamaica has done a great job of saying, look, we don't have time to do this perfect. We're going to get it 90% and make it happen because it's too important. I just think there's an opportunity to have done that, but we are working through the process. We're at least at the point that the equipment is ordered, the equipment is in manufacturing, the tower locations are identified, and we'll be ready to go soon.
We have a lot of questions coming from our viewers, and let me
Sure.
start with this one. Learn, Grow, Invest has a great question. Why are the internet penetration numbers still so low? So is it an issue where the current providers just aren't motivated to go into these communities, or do we actually have maybe infrastructure and maybe geographical issues? Jamaica is a very mountainous country. Why is our penetration so low?
Sure. And you're right, there's no one single thing. I mean, for internet penetration to be there needs to be affordable access to quality broadband. And certainly there are communities that don't have access today, but to be honest, as a percentage of the population, that may be 5 to 10% maximum. I mean, we have an obligation under our licenses to reach both 95% population coverage over 4 years, but also to reach 95% of the and underserved communities in Jamaica. And there's a list of them that we're committed to go into. But you have to have the broadband available. It has to be quality and reliable. People need devices. That is the other thing that we, nor Digicel, nor Flow alone can solve. People need devices to be able to access it. And then it's a training and an education thing. People need to get comfortable using the technology. But right now, what we're hearing is a lot of your first example you gave, and it isn't just in deep rural. There's people in parts of St. Catherine, that's even in Kingston itself, that just don't have reliable enough internet connection that they can be working from home as well. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that interacting with people as well. I'm in Norbrook, so it's an area that has great coverage, but there's times that I can't do business with people outside of Jamaica because I can't get on, or the quality.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's there really is great room for improvement. So tell me about the service that you plan to bring in terms of the technology. Will it be similar to what the current providers offer, or are you using a different technology?
No, it's very similar. There's advantages and disadvantages to being a new entrant, and I can relate in Scotia being on the other side where you were the incumbent. When you're a new entrant, you can use the latest technology. So all of our equipment is 4G. LTE is the type of technology. All the equipment is 5G ready, so that when the government finalizes their 5G strategy for the country, that if it makes economic sense for people to be paying for 5G, we'll be in a position to get it. I mean, what will allow us, at least initially and for the first several years, to be providing a better quality product is that, and more consistent, is because all of our technology is 4G. And right now the incumbents, and there's nothing wrong, this is just, they've been building their network over the last 10, 15 years. So there's some 4G, there's some 3G, there's some 2G. And when the 4G is, and I'm significantly oversimplifying it, but when a cell site 4G is full and at capacity, it trips over to 3G and the speed drops. If it's full, it trips over to 2G and it's even slower, where our network will be fully 4G. So that will provide a more consistent quality. And the other reality is on day one, we have no customers. So we got a lot of capacity, right? So where the incumbents have a
Yeah.
lot of customers, and at times their individual cell sites are at capacity. And that's why people's quality and your service drops, is because
Especially
the
everybody's
equipment.
all at home at the same time trying to watch Netflix
Exactly.
on an
Yeah.
evening. So, well, that answers the
Exactly.
5G question because a lot of people were asking about 5G. You have a new
Sure.
deal with Nokia. Michael wants to know why you're using Nokia instead of Cisco equipment.
Well, Cisco and Nokia equipment's a slightly different thing. I mean, there's really 4 or 5 global companies providing, base stations and kind of the core. In other words, kind of your raised floor data center that is your main operation, your operation center. To be honest, we went with Nokia because they have been, even though we did a bit of a request for proposals, Nokia from day one, when we just had an idea that we wanted to do something, probably because they are really underrepresented in the Caribbean, and they felt as one of the largest global equipment providers that it was strange they weren't in the Caribbean, and they decided then to really link up with us and be a partner. They've been working with us for, well, yeah, it will be in March 2 years that they've been working with us and giving us huge assistance. So and they're to as well go with just a one Nokia solution for the whole country. On day one makes it a whole lot easier. Nokia will have what's referred to as a managed service contract. So in addition to putting out the technology, they will hire people in Jamaica and be supporting us in terms of keeping the
So, Lady Rose says,
going.
I only hope you're here to stay because Digicel love buy out the competition.
Yeah, well, our intention. One of the things that's different is, we are a Jamaican company. It was, and I know it might sound overly altruistic, and obviously, as business people, we are intend to make a return from it. But like Suzanne and I, my wife and I, and our main investors that have come in over the last little while, I mean, we're all Jamaicans, and we all think Jamaica deserves better than to be lagging the entire
Can you
Caribbean
share
in
who are
internet
some of those
penetration.
main shareholders and investors?
No, I don't have their okay to do to do so. Suzanne and I are the majority shareholders and the founders of it, but there's other people that have come along, see the vision that we have, and want to be part of it.
Okay. So we've talked about what the services that you plan to offer when you're looking to roll out, but one of the other things that we all want to know is the rates. And I know you
Yes,
have to get
I knew you were
approval
going
and
to
all
ask
of
that
that.
question.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big way that you could potentially get customers by the competitiveness of your rates.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sure, I mean, I'm going to answer the question, but let me first of all say, I'm sure you can imagine, given there's 9 months left, that if we announced rates
Right.
now, the competition, we intend to be a surprise when we come to the market. But look, we've done a lot of market research. We've done 3 different sessions. 2 of them were extensive focus groups with people. The number one concern is quality of the service. The number 2 is customer service levels. And number 3 is price. So our business model is we want to have the best quality, the best consistent quality that's out there. We want to have the best customer service by far. Again, it's easy if you're designing it from scratch. But we do recognize that to get people to try something new and to move over to us, we're going to have to give better value than them. So I recognize that has to be we recognize that that's got to be a big part of the ingredient, but stay tuned. I'm sure that the incumbents' prices will be different in October than they are
You
today.
know,
So
once they
we'll
hear the
set the
competition
prices.
is coming, all of a
Yeah,
sudden they have sale and discount and all kind of special offers will be coming. That's what
yeah,
competition does. That's what happened when
exactly.
Claro was in the picture
Yeah.
talking
And
about
if you look
self-service.
if you look internationally, and I forget if it was World Bank or IDB or someone had done a study that I read a while ago, that when a new entrant comes in, it expands coverage and it reduces the average pricing, which would make sense. I mean, basic economics doesn't surprise anyone like that. And on day one, as I said, we've got a lot of product. If our product is capacity, we got a lot of capacity and there's demand out there. So obviously it makes sense for us to put it out at a price that's going to start bringing people in and buying the product. But at the end of the day, you'd also appreciate in the long run, we don't want to just be seen as the least expensive option. We want to be seen as the best quality, best customer service. And oh, by the way, it's as good or better value. But we know initially we're going to have to entice people with good pricing.
Have to compete on price at least initially,
Exactly.
but quality is where it's at. Quality is where
Quality
you
and
keep the
customer service.
customers.
I'm
Quality,
sure
right?
that a
And
lot of
customer service.
the viewers will have examples of instances
Poor
where the
customer
customer
service
service,
from the
I
current
hear them
providers.
all
Oh
the
yes.
time. And again, that's the challenge of someone who's been in the market a long time. Again, I've been on the other side in banking. The challenge is when you're a big organization, you've been in the market a long time, you got legacy systems that aren't the most flexible, you've got a network that includes different quality levels across the country. It's a challenge. The nice
So
thing when you're starting is on day one, you can deliver good customer service because
absolutely. Absolutely. So how much have you invested in this already? How much money has been spent?
oh,
Not you
well, we have,
personally, but I
yeah,
mean
no,
how much has been spent?
we have so far invested. Okay, let me not throw out a specific number. We've invested. There's been not invested. There's $10 to $15 million US that we have spent so far to secure licenses, to get the equipment ready, to locations, and we've signed contracts for billing systems and tower leases and all kinds of things like that. So a lot of money. On the other hand, the cost of building out a whole network is an awful lot. We need all the final things from the government before the full funding comes in, and we can put the big dollar contracts out for the purchase orders for all the equipment. 95% coverage, population coverage across the country is understandably a large investment. And yeah, that is coming as soon as we get the last of the things from.
Do you have a vision for rock beyond the rock, beyond Jamaica?
Oh, I thought you were just going to say my vision for Jamaica is, what I would love to be, and maybe my my age. I was in Jamaica. I was chief operating officer with Scotiabank in 1999, 2000 when Digicel launched. And I remember 5 or 6 years after that saying, wow, look at Digicel came in and took owning a cell phone from something that the middle class and up did to something everyone was able to
Everybody
do.
could do, right?
And they didn't do it alone because they reacted and Cable and Wireless reacted to them. I would love for people in 5 years' time to say, gee, internet penetration rate has gone from 62% to 90% in 5 years. And, Rock Connect had a lot to do with it because they came in and they shook things up and, and the competitors responded. And together, all three of us got the internet penetration rate over.
Right, but I'm asking if you have a vision for this company beyond Jamaica's shores, because you mentioned the Digicel example. They came in, they shook things up, they disrupted, and they got this entirely new audience. They started in Jamaica and became a multinational company.
Yes.
So for
Sure.
Rock,
Yes.
is that something that you would envision doing?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
Jamaica being home
absolutely.
base, and then Spreading your wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to underestimate the amount of work in building out a national network and getting
Yeah.
launched, and the team needs to be very focused on that. But we have looked at the region, and it's pretty clear a very similar situation exists in a lot of the Caribbean and even into some of Central America, where you've got one, or I don't think there's any market with just one, but say two incumbents, big growth in demand for data. Data capacity is being stretched due to either lack of investment or different investment priorities. And yeah, with a well-executed strategy, we believe that there are other markets to move into. But if you look at least the whole English Caribbean, as you would know, Jamaica is about half the population of the entire English Caribbean. So we got to start and get this one right. And then if we do this right, we can leverage off of what we're doing here. Particularly today with the technology, we don't need to put absolutely everything into every country. We can run virtually and kind of cloud-based out of a centralized network operating center and go into other markets. But you can ask me that after we're up and actually launched, because there's a lot of work to do
Definitely
between
be a
now and
part
then.
two when that time comes. I'm going to take a few more questions from
Sure.
our audience. So Philip wants to know the money question for us. We're investors. Any plans to list on the JSE?
Yes. Well, okay, I get asked that a lot. I'll be honest. I've been asked that right up to the Prime Minister. And I think that shows both his and the government's real interest in seeing the stock market grow and Jamaicans being able to invest in Jamaican businesses. As much as right now, I'm sure we could do a listing. I just think it's prudent for us to be up, launched, and cash flow positive before we come to the market. But as soon as we are in that position, we'll obviously look at the what's going on in the market at the time, come to.
This is a similar question being asked by Chris. Will Rock Connect go to the market to raise capital?
Yeah, also on the debt side, the intention is that we will go for all or a portion of the debt into the local market. We should have a press release coming in a couple of days, so I won't mention who is our local partner, but I think there's representatives from them on your show. So let's leave it at that.
Leon wants to know about speeds, internet speeds. Right now, I hope they provide better MBS. Only 30 MBS max I can get, which is poor.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be able to consistently, on a wireless basis, be able to provide kind of 30 to 50 speeds. And, speeds come down to how much traffic is on your network and how close you are to a cell site. And, we can often be much better than that, but we want to be able to consistently, even when the network gets up to a better level of capacity, be able to provide 30 to 50 consistently. And I know that that's not happening. That's happening now. We'll be able to peak up to, 80 or 90, but consistently, we want to be able to provide between 30 and 50.
And then Brian wants to know about the tech. Will you be a broadband provider mainly, mobile, cellular, or both, or will you use fiber?
Initially, it's wireless. It will be all wireless provided. So we will be selling product both. I mean, the industry term is fixed wireless. In other words, if you are in an area that today you cannot get fiber to the home, or if the quality, or your small business, or if the quality of the fixed line connection you're getting is not where you want it to be, we can, on a wirelessly basis, provide a modem into the home. I mean, it's essentially the same as a modem that you would have today, but rather than connected through wire into a Digicel or a flow wire, it would be receiving its signal wirelessly. So I mean, there will be fiber in our plans in a couple of years' time, but initially the quick way for us to get to market, for example, in homes, only 40% of homes in Jamaica have internet access today. So there's a lot of homes that can't get it, and that's a function of either there isn't fixed line from one of the incumbents that is close to them, or it could be that all of the existing fixed line products are credit products. You have to sign for a period of time, and we'll be able to come in and kind of a plug and play. Provide home service, but it's going to be data focused, because again, that's where we see the gap is in the marketplace. That's where demand is exceeding supply today.
So, Bruce, there are a lot of questions. Clearly,
Sure.
there is a lot of interest in this topic. Jamaicans are thirsting for another provider, but I'm going to have to leave it there for now. Another time,
Thank you
perhaps
so
we can
much.
catch up. It was really great chatting with you, and I wish you all the best on this
Same.
venture. Invite us to the launch later this year when that happens.
Great. Thank you very much. Been a real pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce. And before you go, let me just thank our sponsor, Appleton Estate, Jamaican
There we go.
Excellence. You said you're a Jamaican company, so
Absolutely.
take a sip later, Bruce.
All
Enjoy
right.
some Appleton on our
Okay,
behalf.
bye.
Bye, Bruce. And to our viewers, take this evening's poll question. So what is our poll question? This one is pretty easy. How do you feel about there being a new telecommunications provider coming country? And you can answer that question on the community tab of my YouTube channel. You can also find the link in my newsletter, which will be going out tomorrow morning with the poll question. So check that out with What's Hot in Business newsletter that goes out on Wednesday morning. And if you're proactive and you want to do it now, it is right there on the community tab of my YouTube channel. So we got lots more to talk about with the analysts. They're standing by. But first, here's your market recap. All right, while we wait on the market recap, let me take a few more of your comments. I think that we have, okay. Look at that. We were talking about internet. My producer lost internet a short while ago. You see, these are exactly the challenges that we have to deal with every single day. So she has to reload the market recap, and we can get that going so you can see who were the best and worst performing stocks last week. Technical issues, says Roger Roberts. Yep. John says, good evening. I'm late, but better than
Taking
never.
stock
Roger,
was
where's the
brought to
market
you
recap? Here it is. Coming up. Go right
by
ahead.
Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy.
And Appleton Estate, Jamaican Excellence.
Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. It was a fairly good week on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, with the combined index up 1%, climbing over 5,000 points. 116 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, January 28, 2022. 54 advanced, 51 declined, and 11 stayed the same. Nearly 173 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling $1.4 billion. Wigton Wind Farm was the most traded stock. It took up nearly a quarter of market volume. People bought and sold 39 million shares in the company. The stock gained 1 cent to open on Monday at 52 cents. Spur Tree Spices traded the second highest volume. People bought and sold nearly 21 million shares in the company. The stock gained 56 cents to open the new week at $2.63. And real estate company Stanley Motor rounded out the most traded, taking up nearly 12% of market volume with 20 million shares traded. The stock was also last week's biggest loser, down nearly 15%. It lost 85 cents to open this week at $5. Now let's see who had the biggest gains for the week. Paramount Trading jumped 46% to close last week at $2.06. Stationery and office supplies climbed nearly 41% to open this week at $1.80. And rounding out our biggest gains, JMMB Group 7.25% is up nearly 28% to open this week at $3.58. On the losing side now, Blue Power Group was last week's second biggest loser after Stanley Motor. The stock fell 10% to open the new week at $3.15. And medical disposables and supplies was down 9% to close last week at $6.74.
Market Recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. This segment of Taking Stock, the Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers.
All right, so let's see which analysts we have joining us this evening. Who's online? Equity trader at JMMB, Clive Charlton, business writer at The Observer, David Rose, and financial coach, CEO, and founder of Profit Jumpstarter, Keisha Bailey, are our analysts this evening. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good night.
Night.
David, you look like you need some Rock mobile internet. A little bit grainy, man.
That is why I just reached my with him and just came back on.
Yep. And same thing. See, we had some technical challenges because of internet issues. It's just an ever evolving problem. Everybody has experienced it.
You're saying here in Jamaica, when you go to the merchant and they're like, the kind machine not working, that's saying you're not here in Jamaica.
Oh my God, that is the worst. And especially, you know what? It always happens? Payday. Right around month end, no card not working.
But here's
What's
the joke. It wasn't payday today. And yet I went to merchants and 2 different POS machines were working. And it wasn't the biggest bank.
The most and that's why they all have like 3, 4, 5 machines, and then try one, and one's not working, then they try a different machine, and then that one's not working, and try a third one, and it's like, oh my God, it's a really, really annoying problem. Definitely a pain point for all us customers. All right, so let's talk. We have a few things to talk about today, and Clive, it's been a minute since you've joined us. It's so good to see you.
Well, thank you. It has been, but a lot has happened in the marketplace over the last several weeks and months, perhaps. Yes, and it's a new year. So
absolutely. Yes. And you heard Bruce, we might have something else to talk about maybe next year. Who knows?
That would be good. That would be good to have that company listed. That would be good.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about SSL Venture Capital. This is a company that has gone through many transitions, and right now they are bankrupt. And they have plans to go through with some microfinancing solutions to go through microfinancing solutions to offload the company. So tell us what the update is with that. Let me start with David, and then Clive, I want you to weigh in, because David, you're the journalist. So you can tell us where we are from that perspective first, and then we get some analysis from Clive.
So really and truly, SLVC is bankrupt. They sold their remaining stake of Blue Dot Data Intelligence last month back to Larry Peart. The Bar Central subsidiary was wounded down, and News 360 is only in operation. So the company technically, kaput. There's no operation for them to earn income, and they have more liabilities than assets. And if you're not earning anything, are you going to pay down the liabilities? So right now, the company is just in a position where they're like, so we have to find a way to deal with the company, because they don't want the minority shareholder to suffer. And a piece of history for persons, SSL Venture Capital Limited, is actually a quote-unquote reverse takeover company of CTW Music Limited, and that was a music publishing company, and that was the same issue.
And that company essentially failed and ended up becoming SSL VC, and now this company is bankrupt as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, SSL has lost so much money on SSL VC, because, so for context, SSL had, they didn't put any fresh equity into the company. What they had done was indexing their loans to the company, And, it was expected that, the SSL VC would have listed some of these companies they invested into, which you can use in turn pay back the loans and so on. Like in the 2021 financial year, they decided to just write down, and just forego the value of the loans. So between Second Credit Limited and SSL Growth Equity Limited, $270 million were written down just as, money that they don't expect to recuperate. And that's, just SSL, who was the major owner. Right now, you have Microfinancing Solutions Limited. They are GK Money Services location, and they, do microfinancing. They're saying, hey, we're willing to come in and buy the company for 0.0948 cents per share. Now, they are required to do a 100% offer based on company law. So, but that's about 80% for JSE rules. So you're looking at basically, $30.3 million for 80% stake in the company, and $37.9 million based on the total value of their offer. And today the Jays put out a update saying that the original offer, which was put out on January 17, has been withdrawn, and they put back out the quote unquote same release, to be honest, because there's no change in the share price or the price that actually were willing to issue or willing to buy SSLVC at. And SSLVC started to spike in the last 2 weeks based on a person saying, hey, it's a recapitalization effort or reverse takeover again might work. So when it gets in the ride, well, SSLVC was one of the worst losers today and was down 22% at $47. So it's a very mixed up situation, to be honest.
Well, let me ask Clive now. So, what does all of this mean for people who are invested in SSLVC?
Well, there's potential loss for these investors. When you look at the financials, even if it is taken over, even if Microfinance Limited is successful in buying out the majority shares and making that offer, well, they would have to make an offer to the minority shareholders. And just maybe that will be the best offer, at least. Well, if they take it to, well, might be the best offer for the existing shareholders. But the company really is in dire strait. We can have a look at some of their financials and realize that they have consistently been in the red for the last several years. But a number of things have added on to this. They have faced challenges, yes, with their holdings, their portfolio holdings, non-performing, underperforming, but they have faced other challenges with respect to them being listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, as a member of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And these things like this doesn't augur well for the company in terms of how investors see it, So it really is in dire strait as of now, and there are other questions that might be spun from what has been happening with the company. There are quite a few questions that people may ask. Microfinance may spend the money to take over this company, but they now have to ask who has been leading the company, who has been making the decisions of this company. You bought Blue Dot, for example, for a value, X value, and then you sold it back at a reduced value to the very same person you bought it from. What thought process went into this decision making in the first instance? Why did you sell it back to the same person at a lower price in such a short time period? There are a lot of questions that people now need to ask about the management of the company.
Do you think it could be that they just needed the cash?
Well, possibly yes, but the question will still be asked. What thought process, what decisions, what numbers, what projections did you have when you thought of buying this company in the first place? What was your outlook on your own company? Why you bought that company? Did you have the capital to invest in it? Did you have the know-how, the management system and processes, access to technical expertise to grow this company when it took over 50% or more of its portfolio? Then you're selling it back to the original shareholder at a significantly reduced price. There are serious questions, not just about the potential acquisition and the value on it, but also who will lead the company, whether the deal works out or not. These are serious questions about the continuity of this company and its ability to generate any form of, to be a viable going concern.
So, Keisha, I don't know if you've been following this story, but you do follow business trends in general. If a deal like this doesn't work out, what would potentially happen, do you think?
Well, from a trading perspective, what's likely to happen? Those who would have bought up the stock today in anticipation of a done deal would suffer losses, because as the deal falls through, the stock is gonna take a hit from that, and so there's the potential for large losses. Overall, a company like this is struggling with cash flow problems and profitability problems, in the long run will continue to struggle from a price perspective as well. So it doesn't look favorable, as Clive and David have been saying. It doesn't look favorable from an investment perspective. It's something definitely you stay and you watch for. There's no major catalyst that we're seeing in terms of a turnaround. And the mere fact that it's a constant sale after sale after sale transactions, we're not seeing any significant pickup in the viability of the company. It's very questionable from an investment perspective.
You had some numbers to share, Clive?
Yes, I did. Yes, and Kirsten, I suppose, can help me in this respect. Yes. Can you see my screen? Oh, I think
Not
I need
yet.
to. Okay,
Not
I
yet.
see.
Sure.
Okay. Can you now see it?
Not yet.
Waiting to see it
Okay,
still.
okay. Oh,
I think it
I'll
takes
have to
a
wait on the
second or two.
technology expert, Kirsten.
But in the interim, I just add to the point that the venture capital is in itself, in terms of, as a capital means of the progression of companies, is a good thing. It isn't a bad thing. But
Yeah.
the reality is, I
Yes.
don't think it was in the best nature of SSL VC to be publicly listed, and in its current structure to have, just been doing what it did. Because
venture capital by nature is very risky.
it is
And
very
you're
risky.
counting on, let's say you invest in 10, you're counting on that one magic company to
Yes.
The
take
unicorn.
the hit for
Exactly.
everybody else. The one to be
Exactly.
profitable and the others are losses.
Exactly.
You ready to share now, Clive?
Yes. And the nature of a venture capital company also is that it must have sufficient access to liquidity, to cash flow.
Dry
It must.
powder.
And
Yes.
most importantly, you must have access to technical expertise. When you take over these companies, there are peculiar situations that the company faces, and sometimes industries that are not very much exploited by others. So sometimes you are laying new footprints. So you have to have very technical, competent experts. Now, looking at stocks, the stocks and SSL VC, can you see
hit
this?
the share button, Clive.
Oh.
Hit the share button so that we can see your screen. I know you have
I
a
see.
pretty presentation for us.
I see. Oh, I'm not off on this technology. Share screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I extracted a few figures, and as a trader, I'm looking at, I'm more interested in what investors are doing, how it might reflect on their choice. Just looking over the last 3 years, their year end is June. It was December, and they changed it to June. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure there's a very plausible, sensible reason for that, right? And more than likely is to align with several of the entities that they have under their control. When you have all these different entities with different year end, you have to find a way to consolidate the results when you're going to prepare the financial year end, and that is kind of difficult for many companies. So year end is June, but when you look at its earnings over the period 2019 to 2021, there you can see the stress in terms of its ability to generate value. In the profit and loss statement, that's where you generate value each year, and that builds up on your balance sheet, which determines the intrinsic value of the company. That is just looking strictly on the financial statements, not on the stock market price. It's in the balance sheet that value is determined. And you can see where the shareholders' equity has been negative over the last between 2019. Now, shareholders' equity, which is the residual value from asset minus liabilities, that is, if there should be a run on the company from creditors and you have to dispose of assets, you'd want some additional value or some remaining value to leave. That is distributed among shareholders. That's called shareholders' equity. And it has been negative for the last 3 years. The book value per share in 2019, 22 cents, minus 22 cents, sorry, right? Not positive 22 cents. In 2020, roughly 58 cents. and a slight improvement in 2021.
Minus 58 cents.
Minus, sorry. You see, that is it, I'm not used to saying minus when it comes to figures.
Exactly.
So, sorry. But the company really has been under a lot of challenge. And, again, before we beat them too much, as David indicated, it is true. Venture capital is not an easy feat. In fact, there's another venture capital firm listed on the stock market, and it has not done too well in terms of price. Its results are fairly flat, but they are still building out. But
Which company is that?
That is Portland J6, and that has strong backing, if I should use that term. It's associated with several entities of one of our major listing company through its owner, its principal owner, right? That is let me, if I can say, Michael Leachin, right? He has some interest in it. So that has access to capital. It obviously has access to an assortment of varied, what to call it? To reduce
capital resources.
Capital resources and different entities right over the region, So that is in a different stead than this company that is really small, undercapitalized, etc. So we can see where the financials are. Now, a negative, we know companies generally on the market, what people buy into is the future value of a company. So sometimes when a company is not doing too well, it's okay when people put an increased valuation on. That's normal, when a business just starts or so. So the expectation is that it will do well. However, we must ask ourselves, given the last 3 years, it's not just this year that the company has not done well. For the last several years, and there are other issues with it, investors perhaps should not have made that decision, that choice to purchase this stock. We look at the financials, and these are some what we call qualified opinion of its auditors. Now, when there's a qualified opinion on a company by its auditor, it means that they have some issue or perhaps objection to how the financial statement is structured, or some valuation or measurement in the financial statements. And this, again, doesn't augur well for the company, because we can say the company is not doing too well financially, But as mentioned earlier, you must question the decision-making process of the leadership of the company. But when an auditor gives you a qualified opinion, as we can say, they have questioned several of the measurement criteria of critical variables in the financial statements, you see. So there are several questions to be asked here. Recent dealings with SSL VC, as indicated and stated by David, is that they have just recently transacted, sold Blue Dot company back to its original principal holder. And he apparently is going to develop that company, which is what was expected, I suspect, with a partnership such as SSL VC. Right? And there's a valuation on that. This is information extracted from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Let me give them some credit here. Let us look at the prices of SSL VC over the last year, extending 2020 February to now. The stock was trading roughly about 48 cents this time, 2021. We see how it has fluctuated between 48 and 58 cents over the period. And then suddenly when that news broke, it spiked significantly. And look at the volume.
That was the news about the potential takeover?
Yes, by Microfinance Limited, yes. Listen. No, and you can also see the spike in the volume.
A chance there.
Yes.
You can see the volume, the significant uptick in even the level of activity, the volume traded during that time period. If we take a closer look, just recently, over the last month or so, you can see how flat the stock has been trading, which means not much volume, sparse. If occasionally might see some volume move. And then all of a sudden, here's the uptick in price. When it was about last week, Friday, it was, and also the volume that is associated with the trading activity. We see a tapering off. Here's the 31st of January, where the volume has tapered off. And I think this is normal when you see a significant uptick in something, because somebody is buying, but also there are opportunistic sellers who see an opportunity to either cut their loss, lock in their gains, and exit the company. Right? And that has happened. So that largely is what has happened with this company. That is the end of the slide. And I can only, well, it is still a listed company. It is certainly better than at least one other company that is not a going concern, that I'm not sure why it is still listed on the stock exchange. I'm surprised. I would expect that prudency and thing. it should be at least suspended from the start. That is Siboney we're talking about, So this is still a growing entity. It has at least maybe it can be resuscitated given the deal that was extended to it. The value though to the shareholders is of concern to me. The value that is proposed is much of this money is not going into the company. It is going to the existing shareholder, at least the majority shareholder. Then the company will have to, the Microfinance Limited will have to make remind me of the term, an offer. Well, it will make a capital injection thereafter, but first it must satisfy stock exchange rule and make an offer to the existing shareholders. What will determine how will this offer turn out? Well, it depends on the price that they're offering. They may have to offer the same price that they have offered the majority shareholder. I don't know how the market will react, to be honest. If the microfinance kind of give some information as what they intend to do with this new company, shareholders might just decide not to sell them and hold it because there's some future potential value. So it really can't say what will happen, thereafter if this deal goes through. So it really is still, as it is now, very high risk.
This is definitely one to keep our eyes on. Thanks for that detailed breakdown there, Clive and David. Keisha, we have to look at what's going on the U.S. stock market. It's having increasing importance in our lives. Just last week, we were talking about how the stock market was down in the United States, and now look at that. It's up. The Dow Jones is having its best week.
Yeah, roller coaster for the month of January, indeed. It was a very volatile month, especially I felt it on my portfolio a lot. Lots happened.
I'm sure, because you're in crypto too, and crypto also took a dip in January, a big dip in January.
Not for the faint of heart at all.
It was a rough month.
Very rough month, very.
So where are we now?
So in January, let me state some numbers here. January for the S&P 500, we were down 5.3% for the month. That is the biggest decline since March 2020. And recall, March 2020 was when we went into the pandemic. So since the start of the pandemic, this has been the biggest month in terms of losses on the S&P 500. We've had 8 days within January, and January had 20 trading days. So 8 days of that period, we had swings greater than 1%. There were a lot of days the market went lower, and then within that same day closed on a positive note. It was very, very volatile, not for the faint of heart at all. Also, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin in particular, took a major hit within the month. Lots been happening. And what drove that really, I'm going to share my screen to show you guys some of the chart movement. So here, looking on the 1 month chart for the S&P 500, clear downtrend, but in between that, lots of volatility. Very, very brutal. There were 8 days within the blue line is the price chart. And so within that month, we see a nice downtrend, but not consistently down. We had up, down, up, roller coaster just going down. We're taking that nice trend down. And then towards the end of the month, January 31, we started seeing the market rebound. Now, what's happening here is month-end rebalancing. The large portfolio managers, the large institutional players, they have to rebalance their portfolio because they would have taken a big hit like myself during the month. And so there is that rebalancing that's pushing up the prices temporarily. Now, still watching out what will happen for February. Not sure what will happen. With no inflation is still a concern in the US. And we see what's happening with shipping. We see what's happening with the chip shortages. Bruce Bowen spoke about it as well, and the impact on Rock Mobile and for his business. So it's something to watch for. I suspect February will be another volatile month as well, because we still have a lot of risks. We have inflation, we have interest rates going up. The Fed will start hiking likely around March or April of this year. So that's coming. We have the Omicron variant still lingering. We have shipping problems still lingering. So Lots of stress is Ukraine-Russia conflict as well. Lots going on. It's gonna be a
Oil
volatile
prices,
February. Yeah, oil
oil
prices as
prices.
well. Yes. So lots going on for February. I think it's gonna be another bumpy month for sure.
It's going to be an expensive year, in my opinion,
Yes.
Oh boy. I hope you
Very
have your
because
different
you see the
year.
seatbelts ready,
pumps.
everybody.
You see the pumps,
2022.
Kalila. You see the
Huh?
pumps. You see the pumps as well. And
Yes.
your
Oh my
Jamaica
The
goodness.
brothers say,
price.
hey, 10% increase in chicken prices, energy cost the problem. Carib cement, 8% increase in liquor price cement. Why? Energy costs.
Energy.
And
Yes.
everybody is saying the same thing. We're increasing prices, energy costs. So, and the thing is, you have analysts in the US saying, hey, it's like oil prices to go to $100 this year. The last time we said that was in 2014.
Yes.
And we cannot manage until the oil prices right now.
Let me turn
You
off this
really
AC. This need to go. I can't see this AC.
it's gonna be a very expensive year, It's going to be a very expensive year, Kalila. Like it's not necessarily Jamaica alone, but global inflation is not pretty. So invest, try and see your best can conserve build income streams because it's not going to get any easier, and you still have to eat.
Well, no,
And
no
for
more
our
than ever.
viewers, just remember, so investing is best for the long term. So don't have a short term. If you think short term, I mean, there are gains to be made in the short term. You saw the dip there that Keisha pointed out. You saw the dip that Clive pointed out as well in SSL. If you're a risk taker, there are always gains to be made. If you're more on the conservative side, look at the long term. So there will be a period of time and periods of time during your investment cycle that you have to wait out certain things. And that's just how it goes. That's how it is. There are up periods and there are down periods. Daniel says this impact will be felt across the board. Absolutely. No AC for me. Mm-mm. So the good thing about Mandeville, I'm in Kingston tonight, but good thing about Mandeville, you don't need it. You do not even need fun. When that
Look
highway
at,
done, y'all gonna
Best
want to
move
join me over
ever.
there, I tell
but
you.
Kalila, look at the joke, Kalila. Beef patty costs $220 now. A trip in Kingston Plaza Kingston costs $150 now for a taxi or a coaster. So, like, regular person on the road is really
And
feeling
their
it.
fares
So,
are regulated, that's the thing. But let's see. Let's see what happens. Thank you so much for joining me again, guys. Clive, David, Keisha, always a pleasure.
Thank
always
you
glad to
very
see
Always
you
much
good
for
here
to
to
having
be
me.
support
here.
the
Always a
mission.
pleasure. Yes.
We will
Yes.
take a very quick break. I'll come back with your final comments and we're done.
Segment The Analysts was brought to you by
Jamaica Money Market Brokers.
Hey, moneymakers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilaReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money.
And giving you another reminder to hit the like button if you haven't done so just yet. Let other people know that you like this video because it's important for the algorithm, as they always say. Let me take a few more comments from you guys. Levar says Tollgate has the cheapest gas prices. Some places in Mandeville, not so bad. Tollgate Clarendon. Yes, it's by Clarendon Park. That whole stretch, all of those gas stations have the cheapest gas in the country. Trust me, I passed there, and that's why I always make sure to fill up. Jermaine, so there were a lot of comments on that interview with Bruce Bowen. Jermaine says, I hope that they get solid network engineers to provide resilient backbone. There was an important comment that I saw earlier that I didn't get to read, and it was from somebody saying something. I can't find it now, but it was something to the effect of they hope that this company has a rigid security system because one of the problems Digicel and Flow have had is theft. People just go in and they vandalize the towers, they steal the cables, the copper wire, and that has been an ongoing issue as well. And King Spotlight says we need a new power supply company. Where does Fly come from? Don't jump on me, Fly. We need a new power supply company to break the JPS monopoly on poor people. And then Philip commenting on the SSLVC issue, saying, "Does the management matter if they're being taken over?" I don't. This fly just keeps coming out of nowhere. And last comment coming from God Inspired says, friends helping friends with the investors' money, as far as I see. I think that was in relation to the SSL issue as well. Well, thank you once again for joining me this evening. My pleasure serving you. Like, once again, hit the like button, subscribe to the newsletter, KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter. And if you know someone who needs to start their investing journey and they're still not quite sure what are the first steps to take, what are the main things that they need to know, then gift them the masterclass at KalilaReynolds.com/masterclass. It's investing for beginners. So if you know absolutely nothing or this person just clueless, then this is the perfect thing that you should help them out with. And if it's for you yourself, I mean, there's no shame in the game, no shame in not knowing. The only way that you can begin to know is by asking the right questions and educating yourself. That's it for this episode of Taking Stock. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.